We are live. We're doing it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tattered Map.
Hello.
I'm Jay Merck. This is special guest. And when special guest is unwinding from researching the show, sometimes he's on YouTube. Sometimes he watches this cat.
Ian McCullum, popularly known as Gun Jesus. He's definitely my favorite YouTuber. And I'm gonna start this by saying I am in no way nothing I'm saying today is meant in any way negative toward him.
Yeah.
Or his. Like, and the other thing to keep in mind is that while we're going to present a lot of links and stuff today, I am not a scholastic researcher. He is. Like, he is an expert in his field.
Yeah.
He has risen to be an expert in his field through an astounding amount of hard work. He's an astoundingly competent and capable person. And someone that I respect very, very highly. He has a friend in In-Range TV that I also respect, but I think is a bit cringy. But he doesn't give bad advice. I just I don't always agree with the way that he presents it. I think that a lot of times his message can be counterproductive. But as I think Mr. McCullum would tell you, both of them have definitely done far more for the right to self-defense or to own a gun, which are things that I value than I have, and honestly, I probably ever will.
Yeah. Having lived with special guest, I've watched a bit of this gentleman Ian's content on YouTube, and I've always found it to be that's some gun content I'm into. He'll talk about antique guns and things.
Yeah, no, I'm all about it, man.
Yeah. Like the work, like your vibe. Yeah.
Well, I like history. What we're talking about, and this is one of the reasons I say it's folklore. I don't put it in the realm of history at all. We provide some links. We talk about some stuff. I try to avoid the current era for a lot of reasons.
But a rabbit hole happened anyway.
And the bit related to him happened at the very end. And of course, like the bit that I'm going to be talking about is one bit of trivia, a little bit of research that I'll show you, and a ton of speculation, right? It's just a good story, guys. His dad might be one of those men who stare at goats psychic spies. He's got the fingerprints all over him.
Ooh.
Yeah, or maybe not.
Now, how did you stumble into this rabbit hole?
If you've ever wasted a bunch of time on Wikipedia or seen, what was his name? Richard Burke? His last name was Burke. He put out an excellent show for the BBC called Connections. Then you'll understand. But I started off from a YouTube comment, not even on his show or even related.
It runs so deep.
Let me scroll down here. I
With
always
the YouTube comment.
screw up this last name. There's a man that he works with on In-Range TV called Carl Casarda, or Casarda. I misspelled it here. It's Casarda. And I'm probably butchering his last name. And he's a member of the Phoenix, maybe Phoenix, maybe Tucson. Maybe I should have looked that up a little better. But he's an Arizona member of the Satanic Temple, which is a group I am suspicious of, but I'm not here to disparage. There's been a lot of disparagement of them across the last, not just from the people who they're basically waging a political war against, because that's understandable. And in many ways, I do agree with a lot of the things, though not everything that they say. But there's been some disparagement within the gun community because there's a lot of hard right people, and he's associated with it, and most of them are ignorant.
Yeah.
Western occult study is a hobby of mine, so maybe I'm pretty open-minded here, but I don't.
It seems like very rarely these two hobbies of yours intersect in this way.
But it's not about either of those guys, but they are peripherally related through the Church of Satan, and there's a whole story related to Ian that we will get to.
This is the diving board, not the pool.
But so it's like to explain the title and what really made me decide I was going to do it this week. But it starts with me trying to research the Process Church. Let me get back up here. And finding this video on YouTube, Unveiling the Mysteries of the Process Church. I'd seen it before. I'd put it on in the background, but I hadn't really paid attention to it. I went to put it on and, of course, stopped paying attention. Start scrolling down, and the second comment here is from a guy named Peter Paul Siva. It says, "This actual documentary was originally formulated and released by myself, Brother Paul Siva, and Brother Paul Siva, and Brother Hiram Corso a couple years back, but is still very much relevant today. Thank you for reposting it, and I can be contacted directly on Facebook under my name, Peter Paul Siva, as it is." As it is a Processian saying.
Whoa.
Which basically means you have to accept the world as it is. That's hypersimplifying it, but part of it is related to accepting their apocalypse theology. Initially, I can't say that is exactly how Mr. Siva is using it. So I went to look up who is Peter Paul Siva. I checked out his Facebook, and we will get to that, but here's what I found that is of supreme interest to me.
I keep wanting to say his name is Peter Paul and Siva.
Yeah.
Like he's a musical act from the 60s.
Well, I had a friend named Shane Ballard who released a lost Charles Manson record called All the Way Alive. He got a hold of some test pressings, and he copied it off, remastered it as best he could. And it's a pretty sought-after record. A lot of these Manson bootlegs, basically. He got Manson's permission, but most of them are bootlegs. Are a very limited run, fetch a very high dollar, right?
NFTs.
And I've been, if you're a record collector, then, and you're a counterculture person, you've almost certainly come across this. So I looked up
Spicy.
Hope, Oregon. What have we got that's blacked us out so dark here?
At the bottom, allow those cookies.
Okay.
Chocolate chip if you can. Sorry, it's a bad joke.
But if we look, it's put on In Great Records. This is the only thing they put out. It's got a track list. A, Young Girl, and B, Harmony. Those are both Charles Manson songs.
Okay.
It's recorded by B. Poston and P. Watkins.
I bet they're jams, too. He can write a jam. We'll say that. I know that about Manson.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He can write a jam.
But that was Brooks Poston and Paul Watkins, formerly of the Charles Manson family. That's who recorded the song. Who produced it? Peter Paul Siva.
Peter Paul and Siva. Sorry, yeah, it's Peter Paul Siva.
I'm going to branch off a little. We're going to talk about this record. The liner notes says, recorded and engineered at the Flagrant Underground in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania on March 23rd. 23rd's important. 23 is a big part of Discordian philosophy. And produced in October 12th, 1990. These songs were originally written and performed by Brooks Poston and Paul Watkins, former members of the Charles Manson family. We hope that by reissuing these two beautiful songs that they can develop an appreciation among a new audience.
Whoa.
Right?
Okay. Noble cause, I suppose.
Now it says over here, Run Out Groove, Side A, Etched, Cosima von Bülow. What?
Huh?
Run Out Groove, Side B, All Else is Error. Bottom right of cover, the number 23.
What?
Well, what do those words mean? First, we get to might is right. The phrase "all else is error." It comes from the book "Might is Right." It is a late 1890s document that doesn't. It's a book that functionally predicates a. Well, let's read some quotes. A man's opportunities are never exhausted so long as other men, who are not his friends, possess millions of acres and thousands of tons of gold.
Whoa.
Virtue is rewarded in this world, remember. Natural law makes no false judgments. Its decisions are true and just, even when dreadful. The victor gets the gold and the land every time. He gets the fairest maidens, the glory tributes, and why should it be otherwise? Why should the delights of life go to the failures and cowards? Why should the spoils of battle belong to the unwarlike? That would be insanity, utterly unnatural and immoral.
Whoa.
The natural world is a world of war. The natural man is a warrior. The natural law is tooth and claw. All else is error.
Whoa.
Behold the crucifix. What does it symbolize? Pallid incompetence hanging on a tree. So, who wrote this book? Because this book is functionally the basis of Yaki's book Imperium.
It does have
Yaki
similar kind of like...
He was inspired by the book. It was written under the name Ragnar Redbeard.
Oh, that's very tongue-in-cheek, like...
By a man who was named Arthur Desmond. He lived for periods in New Zealand, Australia, the United States, and England.
One of those Viking flavor kind of fascists.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. Insane. That was like a.
Well, let's.
That was a beautiful prose. Honestly, you feel you know a lot about who that person is by the end of that.
As with most aspects of Arthur Desmond's life, his birth statistics are problematic. He spent his adult life concealing his origins as well as his identity.
Whoa.
So...
He's a mystery man.
He worked as a politician for a while.
Okay.
Right? In New Zealand. Just did dismally, but kept working. He stood for Parliament a second time in 1887. On a platform that consisted of concentrated attacks on landlords, bankers, and monopolists.
What?
Well, you remember the first woman senator that we went to last?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, she's super progressive, except for that hyper racism.
Yeah. This is insane.
Yeah. So eventually he writes Might is Right, and the rest of his fucking life he's consistently getting it reprinted, even though he's hiding his identity. Here, under philosophy, it says, in Might is Right, writing as Ragnar Redbeard, Desmond outlines his philosophy of society, author, power, violence, and religion. Believing Judaism and Christianity to be streaks of the weak, his book contains many anti-Christian and anti-Semitic statements. The opening lines of Might is Right, death to the weakling, wealth to the strong, illustrate his belief that weakness correlates with death and strength correlates with life. Desmond explains that supporting weakness is unnatural and dangerous for species survival, competition, strength, and dominance being prime natural values.
Whoa. Nazi shit.
Yeah, he's associated with socialism early in. Once again, this is where the socialist and nationalist socialist comes from, because it was a different milieu at that time.
Yeah.
But I urge anyone to look up this wiki here. We're going to put a link. We didn't do the normal huge list of links because there's too many. I'm going to set up a WordPress, and we'll put a link to that in it after we get done with the stream.
Right on. Oh, what's up, Debbie?
Oh, Debbie. Today we're talking about a huge amount of modern occultists, the American Satanic Temple, and how it ties to my favorite online celebrity, Ian McCullum, whose father might have been a Men Who Stare at Goats style psychic spy.
Yeah.
But, we don't want to spend too much time here on Mr. Arthur Desmond.
That fascinating character. Again, like a Mysterioso type. He had mysterious origins. Writes and continuously republishes. It seems like he's clawed his way into a career of like socialism and again like pre-neo-paganism.
No, it is. It's very much the type of neo-paganism
Yeah.
that the Nazis were interested in.
Yeah. And just to talk about Arthur Desmond for a second, a character that special guest just caught me up on, wrote a beautiful little piece here from The Might is Right. And by beautiful, I mean you understand kind of the villainous character behind who's writing this. There's strength in this prose in a way that's frightening to me. I'll read it again real quick. A man's opportunities are never exhausted, so long as other men, who are not his friends, possess millions of acres and thousands of tons of gold. That's it. That's wild. Like, just to break that down, like your opportunities are limitless if you can tear down the establishment. And it is in the opening line alone, you understand a lot who this Arthur Desmond person is. And, a lot of this ideology here, a lot of this way of thinking, these patterns of thinking, echoes into what becomes, the modern, not just neo-pagan movements, but the modern
The Church of
socialist
Satan.
movements.
The Church of Satan is basic. The Satanic Bible
Yeah.
is basically might is right with the anti-Semitism removed.
Gotcha. So
Keep in mind,
they-
Anton LaVey was born Anton Levy. He was Jewish.
where they just
like ethnically
remove
Jewish.
these kind of functional neo-pagan things, and they attach instead like this twisted Catholic form of theology to it. Is that what's going on? Like, because it's even they attach a
Yes,
theology.
I believe no. It's
You know.
they
invert
invert
Catholicism?
it. They do. We're going to get to that, and it happens through Catholicism generally. But I think that's because of the nature of the Catholic structures of the day and the history of French Satanists infiltrating Catholicism in the 17 and 1800s.
And now,
And the ties to things like Hellfire clubs, which were generally more tongue-in-cheek satanic, but were often very problematic in their behavior.
this is a crazy character to stumble upon, considering the means in which you stumbled upon this character. You know what I mean? Like this started with
remember
what someone else put on a release of a Charles Manson record.
right,
References this man's work.
right.
Specifically that book.
So we get to the other Cosima von Bülow. Who are the Bülows? Well, let's start with the Bülow family. Bülow is the name of an old German and Danish noble family of Mecklenburg or origin, members of which have the title of Baron or Count. Family traces its line back to one knight, Godofrius de Bülow, mentioned in 1229, right?
Yeah.
So they're a royal family.
An old German, royal family.
Now, I want to give you a little context before we get too much, because remember, we're talking about Cosima von Bülow. And we're going to get to that, but let's talk about Denmark in World War II. Yeah. They're a monarchy.
Yes.
Right? They were overrun, but saw almost no damage. They were functionally just managed by the Nazis.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I knew that.
I'm not saying that they were friends with the Nazis. I'm saying that they were overrun and functionally managed. They saw almost no damage, almost no loss of lives. Now, they had a few different places. At that point, Pharaoh Islands, Iceland, and Greenland were all their territories.
Whoa, okay.
Right?
Damn.
So
this is the monarchy.
The Faroe Islands definitely saw some damage. From 18 until 44, Iceland was self-governing, but the Danish king was the head of state in Denmark and Iceland. Sort of like the British queen being the technical head of state in Australia and Canada.
Yes.
Okay? It's part of their commonwealth. The UK occupied Iceland to preempt a German occupation on 10 May 1940, turned them over to the then neutral United States in July 41 before we entered the war. Officially remaining neutral throughout World War II, Iceland became a fully independent republic in 44. So they lost Iceland, and I think this was part of a deal.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Like they're gonna let Iceland become self-governing, so that we will help them out with Greenland. You got me? Because Greenland's a whole lot of potential mineral rights.
Yeah.
So this is important. On 9 April 1941, the Danish envoy to the United States, Heinrich Kaufmann, signed a treaty with the U.S. authorizing it to defend Greenland and construct military stations there. Kaufman was supported in this decision by the Danish diplomats in the United States and the local authorities in Greenland. Signing this treaty, quote, in the name of the king, was a clear violation of his diplomatic powers, but Kaufman argued he would not receive orders from an occupied Copenhagen. This tells me likely he's operating in the name of the king, despite the king having to keep up pretenses while occupied. This is fine with the king, but for purposes of concealment.
Yeah.
You got me? That he's saying, oh, this is fine with the king, even though it's beyond his diplomatic powers. But he's really saying, no, the king functionally is okay with this, even though I don't have the authority to do this.
Yeah.
Because we can't trust what's coming out of there because the transmission itself is compromised. He's at best, he's doing it under duress. All right, so Cosima von Bülow is a British socialite. Countess Cosima von Bülow-Pavancelli is a British socialite and philanthropist of U.S., Danish, and German ancestry, and daughter of the lawyer Klaus von Bülow and Sonny von Bülow. Okay. She was portrayed in 1990 in the film Reversal of Fortune. I want to say Helen Hunt played her. Right?
Okay. Weird.
Which recounts the
Jeremy
true story. And Jeremy Irons. It recounts the true story of the unexplained coma of socialite Sonny von Bülow, the subsequent attempted murder trial, and the eventual acquittal of her husband Klaus von Bülow, who had Dershowitz as his defense attorney. Right? Which is basically, that's a good summation of what happened there, right?
I have in the bottom corner there, they had Dershowitz. Dershowitz is like so easy to portray. Yeah. Mustache, afro, glasses. Done. Suit. Dershowitz. Sorry.
So, and keep in mind her behavior, right?
Yeah.
In light of everything we've learned about MK Ultra programming.
Okay.
In December 26, 1979, after the family come together for Christmas, she was found unresponsive and rushed to the hospital, where she was slipped into a coma but revived. After days of testings, the doctors determined the coma was a result of low blood sugar and diagnosed her as hypoglycemic, warning her against indulging on sweets or going too long without eating. While no foul play was suspected at the time, Klaus von Bülow was later accused of causing this incident by injecting her with insulin. Well, why would he do that?
Put her in a meditative state and then jab her with the insulin?
Before she married him, she'd married Prince Alfred Edward Friedrich Vinces Martin Maria von Augsburg, the son of Prince Alois von Augsburg and Countess Henrietta Larisch von Monig. Came from a very distinguished princely family.
Whoa.
Now, he's doing great, whereas the Baron, not so much. Like, the Baron's fucking broke. Right? I believe at this point he was her tennis instructor.
Holy shit. So he's beyond broke. He's taking gigs. He's taking side gigs to try to make ends meet.
And she is an heiress with a 1950s fortune of $100 million.
Whoa. 1950s $100 million?
Yeah.
She's got gold.
So eventually he's convicted, but he wins on appeal. And in the aftermath, his daughter, Cosina, as opposed to her half-sister and half-brother, who were like, no, it was murder.
Yeah.
So the kids are split. Right? Yeah. Like his stepkids are like, he murdered her. His kid is like, no. And so
my dad wouldn't do that.
As a deal, like they cut her out of the will.
Whoa.
They cut Cosina out of the will. And as a deal, right, they say that he will get no money. And that only she will get money. And she basically, as I understood it, could only take care of him, but not meaningfully transfer it. He couldn't have any control over this money. And so then she got cut back in on like $30 million worth of inheritance in like 1980.
Damn. That's some old bullshit.
Like, and she didn't die. She was in a persistent vegetative state the whole time. That's what you have to understand.
So it's basically her conservatorship is up for fucking debate, like her power of attorney and shit. That's crazy.
Now,
this is a crazy name.
Who was Klaus von Bülow's grandfather? His name was Fritz, because what was going on during the war with the von Bülows?
Well, they're Danish, right?
Yeah, so it was occupied.
Yeah,
like
so
I said,
they're
King of Denmark.
Yeah, they're Nazis.
Well, I mean, are they?
Well, they're having to.
They're
associate
like, hey,
yeah.
man, like resistance existed. You can't just immediately say they're Nazis. They're like they were just from a Nazi-occupied area. But Fritz
we're
Bülow
kind of touching into like Prince Philip's family, right?
I'm not sure,
Like Greece and Denmark.
but he was the son of Mary of Toxwort and E.C. Bülow, town clerk and member of the noble family of Bülow. Graduated in 94, obtained a position in a working law office. 98, graduated law. In 1903, at the age of 30, he was granted the right to plead cases before the Danish Supreme Court. He was a well-known man.
Wow.
He was a business party and a member of the Hoja Party, but he made, I know I slaughtered the name of that party, but he made contacts with members of the Venstre Party while defending J.C. Christensen and Sigurd Berg against impeachment trials in the Alberti scandal. As a result of these connections, he was made justice minister in the government of Klaus Bernstein. That's from 1910 to 1913. Member of the Landstaggat from 1920 to 24, served as legal advisor of the Landsmannsbanken, and also worked on the board of Nationalbanken. First as a member and later as a chairman. Had to resign from the speaker of the Landstaggat as a result of the bank's collapse in 22, which is, the Depression.
Yeah.
Just hit Europe a little early, as I understand it.
Yeah.
But he stayed the whole time and remained influential. He didn't die until 1955.
This fucker lived a long time.
Yeah, so it's hard to believe that he was involved with resistance. Now, that doesn't make them Nazis. Like, not everybody who worked with the Vichy were believers. Some people were opportunists, and some people were just folks who were in a hard place and made a decision and stuck with it, and it might not have been the best, and maybe they learned from that. Like, I'm a believer in personal growth. That happens. Not everybody who worked under that regime murdered my and your cousins.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
Okay, so a little background on the record, but let's get back to Mr. Peter Paul Siva. He's got a YouTube channel, right? And this is sort of how I do my research. So we go to his channel, and he's got one subscriber, no playlists,
no videos,
nothing on the about, but he's got friends.
Yeah.
And this is sort of how I do my network research. Like, oh, you've got public stuff. What all are you into?
UFO
what
TV,
channels?
Vice News and shit.
Yeah, well, and you'll see that he doesn't have a huge amount of friends, but he's got friends,
Yeah.
I mean, I say friends, it's YouTube. He's got people that he follows, both channels and individuals. We've got another account that goes back to 2016. No videos. Couple playlists. Less channels that he follows, I think. But it's a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
A smattering of both sides of media. Some folks you'd think are a little more toward the right, but that can also, in the current era, be considered some folks who are trying to be militantly open-minded.
Here's how much I look at other people's suggested, like what you guys watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you right now things about this cat. He smokes weed. He is interested in UFOs hard.
Yeah.
Has listened to Angels and Airwaves because of that.
Well, he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Right? He's been into what they call Fortean beliefs for a while. Fortean subjects. So, let's take a look at his Facebook. First thing, big Procession cross. That's the Genesis Peorage cross.
Holy shit.
Right? And it's also, I believe it's is that Thai or is that Sanskrit? I can't tell. I think it's Thai.
Yeah, something.
Oh, and he's got some friends. Let's see, what friends and note did we have? Oh, he's got a friend. Okay, one thing to know. Let me go down a little further before we get into this. I've also found, was in an industrial band called Psychic Attack.
Oh.
Sort of like Psychic Youth.
Yeah.
Or Psychic TV. Right?
Whoa.
And it says it's William Clay and Peter Sprockie. But later, it turns out, I believe, Peter Sprockie's his given name as opposed to his artistic name.
Gotcha. Use the restroom real fast.
Yeah, sure. And it says here it's based on experimental ambient industrial group active in the 1980s. The Psychic Workshop was formed during the worldwide mail art scene that developed in the mid through late 80s. The group, which was William Clay from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA, and Peter Sprockie from Shadyside, Ohio, USA, had 2 official releases as the Psychic Workshop. Psychic Workshop and Come All Ye Faithful. So I believe Psychic Attack might be the name of this release, not Psychic Workshop. But keep in mind his last name was Sprockie. So I go to look at his friends, and I see Miss Linda Sprockie Scott. And, I'll have to find it on here. Oh, yes, here's Miss Linda Sprockie Scott. So I looked through his friends after, finding that his given last name was Sprockie.
Yeah.
He's got a friend whose middle name is Sprockie.
Oh.
Right, and I noticed that. And then I noticed that she has the same P.O. box, as you can see here on cluster maps. It's listed in here that she has the same P.O. box as he does. And when you do like a background, I didn't do I just popped in his name and the free background search information will cross up with some correlations. That came in because I'm just trying to understand this Molo. This is, instead of going down Wikipedia, this is the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
So they're related even to the point of maintaining the same West Virginia P.O. box. Right? And one of her friends, oddly enough, is this guy Tom Smith, who works at 823rd CES Red Horse, which is the height of Air Force Special Forces. They're called combat controllers.
Oh, okay.
Who else is he friends with, though? Oh, shit, he's friends with Brother John of the Process. Of the original Process group.
So now we have Air Force... You just confirmed so many connections we've been speculating on.
The Air Force one's is a friend of his cousin. He's got another friend with Process links, if you go through here, named Jerry Edward Cornelius. Looks like a cool-ass old head.
It does look cool.
Another friend who it said he was he worked at the Process Church of Final Judgment.
Al-Cabal.
Yeah, Al-Cabal. Oop. He's got a friend who's a Thelemite, which is Crowley's group. Frater Oz, who's from Norway, or claims to be. But here, I want to go back to that P.O. box he shares with Miss Brock. Where you find it is him posting on the Temple of Psychic Youth /Topi in 2018 a notice of things that he's looking for a Topi archive project.
Oh.
And what he lists the P.O. box as is care of Brother Peter Paul Siva, P.O. Box 23, Wheeling, West Virginia. P.O. Box 23, that's a get.
Oh.
Again, occult circles, for in his specific occult circles, that is a get. That's very important.
Yeah.
Found a LinkedIn. So we're just building up an idea of who this Peter Paul Siva guy is. And, I don't...
Oh. I don't have a link.
He doesn't have a LinkedIn, but we'll have it in the links. There's a LinkedIn where he describes himself as a lay preacher from West Virginia.
Merc Radio.
Oh, you don't have a LinkedIn. We're gonna need that. Well, we won't, but it will be important. You can look up something on a LinkedIn later. Okay. He has a second LinkedIn account. We're gonna put all these links up on a page, and you'll be able to link in the description. It'll probably be by this evening, by the time we're done. So if you get this. If you check back any day other than the day we cut it, it'll definitely be there. He also has a profile on Baphomet X, or Baphomet X. You pronounce it how you want. What is that? It's a social network run by the LeVay family, who has their own Facebook profile. It's got 5 reviews.
Weird.
What sort of stuff does he do? Well, here's somebody who bought, let me find it, he bought a chunk of John Wayne Gacy's yard for his historic sod collection from Mr. Siva.
He's got all of the creepy artifacts. This dude hoards creepy artifacts.
Well, he trades them. He trades them. My friend Shane Ballard made his money doing this. Like it's by so collecting appropriate super niche memorabilia, stuff that he was obsessed with, and eventually trading it, flipping it, copying it.
I thought maybe he had it stashed. Like some of these were like basically like he's starting a museum.
Here's a review. He's listed in here as part of the review on this review about Too Perfect This Feast, a performance commentary on the Gnostic Mass.
Wow.
So this guy's connected, right?
Deep connected in a few different circles.
Here's some more of Psychic Workshop. I called him Psychic Attack earlier, but that was the name of that record. It's Psychic Workshop.
Oh, okay.
And it's the Discogs on Psychic Workshop.
Okay.
What's this YouTube? Psychic Workshop. Psychic Attack.
Here, a few seconds of that.
You'll notice the processed skull imagery along with the inverted pyramid imagery.
Yeah.
Sounds like old school industrial. I've made shit like this, and I enjoy this type of music, but you know.
It's easy to...
You trance out like this.
It's easy to miss some of the crypto-fascist Nazi stuff that happens in the industrial scene.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, it was supposed to be what they referred to as jackboot aesthetics, and in the spirit of satire and parody, which is a fair way to look at it, except for some of the connections that you do find festering within that scene, especially related to the later neo-folk scene and the Marshall industrial scene.
Well, that's a long-ass intro. You look, man.
That's just what that record sounds like.
Oh!
Yeah, no, it doesn't turn in like
that's ambient.
Yeah, that's what most early industrial sounded like.
I thought maybe they were hitting him with that minute 30 intro like I'll do.
So that's Mr. Peter Paul Siva, but he mentioned that also a brother Hiram Corso was involved. Who's this? Hiram Corso has a Facebook page with some pyramid imagery. Some ancient aliens imagery, the old face on Mars.
Is he
right?
Part of that?
He's friends on Facebook with Mr. Siva.
Is he part of that cult that has the kids making the different pyramids out of soaps and stones?
I have no clue. I haven't heard about that.
Well, yeah, I got a rabbit hole for you.
And I found a YouTube video, or a YouTube channel.
Whoa, nothing but process shit. Wait, and some, Aleister Crowley,
some Austin Osman Spare, some Brian Eno, and both tracks from that Hope Organ single.
This is an occultist right here.
I have my suspicions that maybe Mr. Corso, and I could be wrong because there are people I'm sure who could confirm this, but just based on this deep dive I did the other night, it almost reads like Mr. Corso and Mr. Siva are the same person in different names. But, you know, with the nature of what's going on in the intentional obfuscation and the use of nom de plumes, you know, this is like trying to figure out Shakespeare's style.
Well, gotcha. I kind of have his character type pegged, and this is really a joke just for you and Angel, but, you know, he really seems like a Holy Mountain and Weave type.
Yeah.
Put on the Holy Mountain, and you're going to leave. You're not going to bang him.
But the important thing to do and note is that if you look up Hiram Corso, or even if you put in that channel into Google, it won't come up. All that you get is a link to a ukpost.info, which is one of those Russian pirate YouTube mirror sites that has all this stuff. So he's had it hosted for a while, but it turns out that he's a respected occult author.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons he's published here in The Fenris Wolf, number 5, by Carl Abrahamsson, who is a pretty respected Swedish. And when I say respected, like some people have no respect, and some of these ideas border on fascistic in the occult circles.
Yeah.
Like so. If I say respected, that doesn't mean I respect him. Often I haven't done enough research to have an opinion. And this all happened real fast in terms of finding all this. You know, here's his website. It's not loading in. There we go. Yeah, I listened to
Okay, so he's
Mr.
constantly involved in occult.
Yeah, I listened to a thing on him the other night. It was instead of letting this load, I made a copy of it, having to do with Anton LaVey, and he says already in the Satanic Bible, Anton LaVey has shown considerable creativity. Concepts like psychic vampire and the balance factor soon became household terms in America and the rest of the world. His descriptions of the ritual space as an intellectual decompression chamber also hit home outside the strictly satanic perimeters, as did the slightly later term occultnik, signifying a person who is lost within old structures of occultism without being able to see what's really of use on a practical material level. LaVey's initial works, the Satanic Bible and the Satanic Rituals, are great examples of creative appropriation and reformulation. But the 2 volumes of essays and what he's appropriating and reformulating is Might is Right.
Okay.
But the 2 volumes of essays and maxims that followed much later, i.e. The Devil's Notebook and Satan Speaks, genuinely contain the essence of LaVey's wit and creativity. In these books, we find many fascinating topics: the integration of emotionally resonant music, stressing the ego, encouraging a sense of humor, artificial human companions, the total environment, the archetype of the villain, the third side of truth, and much more. And then I've got a link to him talking about it right below. And then we get to this. It's an article that is super apologetic about the process. By Peter Sprocki and Hiram Corso. It's on serialcalendarcamera.com. I'll let y'all read through it. It's way too long, but it reads as it reads as, I don't want to say revisionist history, because it does read according to Timothy Wiley's narrative. It just takes it straight from, or Wiley's narrative, but it takes it straight from Wiley's narrative and assumes it to be true, like accepting government figures as real.
Gotcha. They're like, they're speaking from facts.
So I went to see how rare it is, and I couldn't find it for sale anywhere. I found it sold once on Amazon.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah. What is that cover? Is that it? Is this it? Is this the actual?
Yeah, that's the cover right there.
Like the Manson record?
Yeah. And I found the review.
Oh, Oregon young girl back with army. Is that it right there?
No, that's the editorial review. But no, I found a review from the guy who bought it.
Oh.
And he says, his name's The 23 Store. Hands down, these classic Manson family-related songs are by far some of the most beautiful sounding tunes to emerge out of that era in California's 1960s history. So he stands Manson big. We know that. What do we know about him? Well, let's take a look at his account. Holy shit, first thing I see is he follows 2 people, and one of them's Michael Aquino.
Satanists.
The other one's a fellow named Jonathan Mitchell, who I don't know anything about, so I can't really talk about it. I assume it's as meaningful as Aquino. For those who don't know, Michael Aquino founded the Temple of Set. He broke off from LaVey's Church of Satan. He was using what he called theistic Satanism.
Yeah.
Which is different than atheistic Satanism. Like, he's like, oh no, there's an actual entity known as Satan. And he stole LaVey's daughter, and by that I mean he convinced LaVey's daughter to come with him. And eventually she left him for a guy, I believe, named Nicholas Schreck. Right?
Crazy.
But let's take a look. What else has he got? He's got a total of 2 reviews, both this year. The other one was for, it looks like he bought a copy of The Black Pope by Anton LaVey.
Huh.
Now, there's 2 things. One, Ace Nihil was exceptionally pleasant, skilled, attentive, and even attended our daughter's baby shower. That's a guy named John Ace Nihil. We'll get to him. But as an aside, he wrote some real boomer stuff here that's hilarious, so I'm going to read it out. Yes. And I believe it is probably true based on the types of people he associates with in the collector's milieu that he is in. Like, obviously within. If he's hanging out with fucking John Ace Nihil. It says,
Boomer reviews.
We can all say that God must have been looking down upon that particular morning with an overabundance of love and compassion. Not only did we manage to score the complete multi-year episode series of Chico and the Man, but also an exceptionally classy, and I'm assuming he's talking about his daughter's baby shower that John A. Snile showed up at, but also an exceptionally classy, not to mention extremely sexy looking, fully nude, life-size rendition of an aging, but may I add still yummy-looking, octogenarian Carol Burnett. Plus, to make this already surreal and seemingly unbelievable experience even more enjoyable and wild, after looking at the painting more closely, we finally came to realize that the artistic masterpiece that I will now and forever be an integral part of our family's growing wealth and prestige was painted by none other than the one, the only, Bob Ross. How much you think that'd be worth?
So
because
Bob Ross did.
Let me tell you, people will tell you.
Size?
People will tell you that the Chuck Berry P tape doesn't exist, but I've seen it. My friend Shane had it, and he got it from these same types of tape collectors.
Are you sure it's Carol Burnett, not that chick he was bagging that looked like Carol Burnett, his manager?
Duh.
That'd be hilarious if it's like, he's like, that's not who that was supposed to be.
So, now we get to who's John Ace Nihil. Well, Ace Nihil stands for aesthetic nihilism.
Oh, okay.
We've got his IMDb here. Selective discography, William S. Burroughs in The Dream Machine. The Nova Convention, Revisited, William S. Burroughs and the Arts. The Drift, The Goddess Bunny channels Shakespeare. Manson Family Movies. Transmutations in the Atomic Age, or Weenies on Your Porch.
What the fuck? So he also makes weird occult.
The Manson Family Movies came out in '84, and it's a painstaking reenactment of the day-to-day activities of the Mansons on at the Spawn Ranch, right? He's known for the lady with severe deformities that was in that Marilyn Manson video, The Dope Show. Her name's Goddess Bunny, and basically, I think she passed just like last year or the year before.
Yeah, pretty recently.
But he's the guy who got her famous, right?
Weird. And he's celebrating this creepy ass painting. Yeah.
Who is he related to? We've talked about Genesis P-Orridge quite often, right? But if you go to The Drift and start looking through the cast, you're going to see, where is she? Paula P-Orridge.
Oh.
That's Genesis P-Orridge's first wife.
Yeah.
Not Lady Jane Breyer P-Orridge.
But the first.
Yeah, before he started doing the plastic surgery.
Oh.
Right? To look like his wife. And The Drift is apparently written by Tennessee Williams from The Roman Spring of Miss Snow and John A. Snile. He works with a lot of people and has been heavily involved with both the Manson scene and the industrial scene, which are tied together. They're basically, historically, the same scene. Right?
Yeah.
So he's got a website, Ace Nihil Video. Oh, yeah. What have we got on here? Selling Manson stuff. He's got a lot of Manson stuff because he's the foremost...
Is that...
Yeah, oh yeah, John Waters is part of the scene.
This dude is in... John Waters shows up in every occult thing ever.
He's got a band camp. You'll notice the immediate implicit fascist vibes to go with the fucking King of Trash vibes.
Yeah. Whoa.
It turns out, as I found on Manson blog, that he's probably the foremost collector of Manson memorabilia and related stuff in the world. He's got 3 buildings filled with Manson stuff. This was really interesting. It's an article on What Up Hollywood called Tarantino versus John Ace Nihil, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it's his whole feeling, it's the article writer's feelings related to John Ace Nihil's narrative. And it's an astoundingly good article. We couldn't get into the whole thing. But what I'm getting at is he's well known. Like, people are comparing him to Tarantino in the same breath for a fucking reason. He's connected to noted pedophile Allen Ginsberg because he filmed him in that documentary, The Dream Machine, with Burroughs. Here's his Discogs. Germs, Goddess Bunny, John Waters.
Huh.
Beyond Joy and Evil.
So he's hella connected in the Hollywood occult.
Here, he's listed as a member of the Psychic Youth.
Oh.
Why? Because they're making a documentary on it, man. And he's got a YouTube video that features an interview with Timothy Wiley. Now, he's got a documentary called A Message from the Temple. It's got its funding.
Oh.
Right? Estimated delivery 2016. I couldn't find it anywhere. Seems like it never really happened, despite being overfunded to the tune of like $10,000. I could be wrong. Somebody could be like, no, you just couldn't find it. You're stupid at Google. That's possible. But I couldn't find it. It seems like it's still not out, though, based on A Message from the Temple, which is the website for it. That's, once again...
Was it they were not seeking followers, we were seeking collaborators?
Which is what they always say. That's what they always say. And it turns out that Mr. Ace Nile is working...
That's my message at Merc Radio. I didn't know I was co-opting process shit.
We've all been programmed with process shit. They've been doing it since the late 60s. Damn. Like all of culture.
Damn.
This is why I am very, very... like, there's two views of art, and one of them is that all art is either art, which is a form of propaganda, or design. And most design is actually being used as corporate propaganda. But he's worth $15 million. So we go to this record. This Poor Old Boy Prisoner, put out in 1989 in Germany on Remote Control Records. Many thanks to Nicholas Schreck, who Xena Schreck was with. Now she's just Xena. They've split up.
Yeah.
But Anton LaVey's daughter. Boyd Rice of Non, noted neo-fascist. Aleister Crowley.
Wow.
Anton LaVey. John Ace Nihil. This is in 89. Nick Bogus. Bobby Beausoleil. Newell Emmons. Lynette Fromm. Genesis Peorage. Kenneth Anger. Oliver Strom. Roman Polanski. And finally, Shea Taryn for inspiration. This record is dedicated to Paul Richard Polanski. That's what they were going to name the baby.
Wow.
Limited edition 555 copies. 55th anniversary minute. 55 minutes of live music. What's 5? 5 is just 2 and 3 together. This is part of the Discordian, like you'll hear that often in philosophy.
Yeah.
In the Discordian philosophy.
Whoa.
Right? It was put out on Remote Control Records. So what's Remote Control Records? They're a bootleg label. They put out White House, Charles Manson, Brighter Death Now. That's important. The guy behind Brighter Death Now, who I'm sure had no problem with this bootleg, was involved in Cold Meat Industries Records. They're one of the biggest European industrial labels. He didn't shut it down until 2016. And now he's still running a label for just himself. These are all what they would call power electronics, which is heavily neo-fascist music. Not universally, not by nature as a genre, but has been quite infiltrated by those circles.
Yeah.
And this one Charles Manson record with all these people involved, many of whom were involved in the industrial and early power electronics scene. So we go to look at all these Manson records on MansonDirect.com. Oh, that's a shame. It's wild. Photos were loading the other day when I was here.
Weird.
Let's give it a try. Nope, they're not going to load. But we get down, and these are organized from newest to oldest.
Hey, just kidding. It's still
and what's the first thing? What's the first bootleg known of Manson material? It's Poor Old Boy Prisoner, him recorded Remote Control Records, limited edition, 555, released about 92. Now, this is resonant to me because when you get up here to around 2003, you get to... Oh, where are you? Oh, here's one. Released by Holy Terror Records, Inner Sanctum. Yeah, keep in mind, we'll get to Holy Terror on another show.
Yeah.
But they're modern processians, and they're a modern movement, and they basically started picking up change hardcore through the band Integrity. But we get up here and All the Way Alive. CD from People's Temple Records. The Lost Unheard 1967 Manson studio recordings. Excellent recording, highly recommended, fully authorized and approved. Features some of the best Manson music ever recorded. My friend Shane Ballard is the one who put that out, and that put him in contact with these tape trading circles.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So, personal connection to the case for me. The case. I'm a fucking detective or something.
Well, I mean, it is at this point. When we talk about Manson, that's how, the nation...
Okay, so
about the Manson
now we've got a general context of all the weird stuff that seems oddly related, that if you've watched the rest of the shows, has the feelings, and I just say the feelings of a stay-behind network.
Yeah.
Now, if we'll get into a whole thing on the process at some point. There's so much information out there. Some of it's conflicting, and I'm working on a view that's somewhere between the official current process line and fucking Mari Terry.
Yeah.
I am not a moral panic person. I just believe in stay-behind networks, and I've seen this type of thing. I've seen the fingerprints and evidence of this having been done many years ago. And normally this is where I would stop. Well, because I don't like to talk about the current era. I'm not looking to disparage anyone, and I don't think I will. The only people who I'm going to say anything about from here forward, I'm going to put in very measured language, especially because I respect some of them. One of them I do not respect, and one of them, fine. I don't really have that many feelings on it. I think he's a little cringy sometimes, but I think his heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
And that's not meant to be fucking patronizing. I don't know a better way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This guy who has already accomplished and will probably accomplish, if accomplishment is your measure of a person, which is a might is right view.
Yeah.
But if that's the case, yeah, man, he's definitely accomplished more in the field that I very much like than I probably am likely ever to.
Yeah.
Okay, so we keep talking about Genesis Peorage, Temple of Psychic Youth, One Topi Tribe. These are all sort of extensions of the same thing. What happened was Genesis Peorage, a member of Psychic TV, was a member of a self-described Maoist commune that was trying to reenact the process.
Fuck.
This was in the late 70s, early 80s.
Maoist commune trying to reenact.
He said eventually he got tired of the rigidity. Basically.
I would imagine.
And it was every morning when you got up, because fashion is pointless, was their mindset, was one thing. So every morning they had a communal box of clothes, and you just had to put on the first thing that you pulled out of this mashed together bunch of clothes that fit, right? If you wanted to spend any of the communal money, everybody there had to come up with at least one idea of how you could do the same thing without spending money. Whoa. And they had no problem with crime.
Whoa.
You got to understand that.
We could just steal it.
Yeah,
is something that will always.
But they were attempting to be basically psychedelic revolutionaries. They're following the whole acid model and eventually ecstasy.
Okay.
They were heavily involved in ecstasy. Once he starts Psychic TV, I don't want to say he starts house music. There are people who are doing it beforehand. Without Psychic TV and in the influence of Psychic TV working as hard as artists as they did, I don't believe house music would have caught on worldwide like it did or be propagated as wide.
Yeah.
And I think that was sort of his goal. Mm-hmm. What does it say? Pleasure is a weapon. That's something Timothy Leary also had to say, and it fits right in line with the CIA and the MI6.
This rabbit hole of modern day occultists and proof of them all being interconnected showing up.
Well, I think of you talking about, back home you were aware and knew some of the people involved in some of the motorcycle clubs.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh well, those racist motorcycle clubs. The trick is they're all the same.
They are.
They have different factions. They'll even fight each other, but they're all the same because they're all working toward the same goal in general.
They all
as individual units,
anthropologically,
which would make them excellent shock troops if you needed them.
Yeah.
And what was Manson involved with? Dune Buggy Motorcycle Gang. He was involved with the Straight Satans, as I recall.
He was involved in a bunch of shit. Also at a party, apparently, at the Tate LaBianca estate. With De Grimston.
Yeah.
And then two Processians visit Manson when he's in jail.
Yeah.
Just relevant as hell to specifically our government funding or being aware of and allowing to happen these stay behind groups, these cults.
So here's an article
And we brought up Maury Terry a few times. Sorry, I'm just the ghost of Maury Terry. It's like he's been haunting both of us.
Look, I think Maury Terry got a hold of a lot of bad information and a lot of disinformation, but I think that it was also related to things that were going on in the intelligence spheres, done through cults like the Finders.
Yes.
And I suspect all of those cults are in a way related, even if they don't know, or even if they're set up as what I call lone wolf cults, basically. But here is...
I believe the mother of Stacy Moskowitz when she says she believes Maury Terry. How about that?
But over here in Northwest Progressive is a thing on dissecting might is right. It's a good read, but it ties it together and explains how it's connected to LaVeyanism, how he basically rewrote it. Now, what have we got here? The Temple of Psychic Youth. The Temple of Psychic Youth, basically using the techniques of Austin Osman Spare, were involved in chaos magic. They basically created modern chaos magic as you understand it. And when I say created, I don't mean from the ground up. I mean they correlated it into the system almost everyone I have met that does chaos magic currently uses.
Yeah.
Which is basically create a sigil and focus your intent, do it within a ritual space, preferably at a ritual time, ritualize everything around it to make it significant. I find it a view of brain hacking. Many of them do too. And it's based on the concept of strategically diluting yourself, which can have an evolutionary benefit. So the early network consisted of stations worldwide, including Topi Chaos for Australia, Topi NA for North America, and Topi Station 23 for the UK and Europe. Smaller grassroots level substations called access points were located throughout America and Europe. Throughout its existence, Topi's been influential in groups in the underground chaos magic scene.
Sorry to interrupt. The fact that the Australia branch is called Topi Chaos.
I believe that this is part of Operation Chaos. Like Nixon's Chaos, that it never stopped, and that they also are actively working on Australia right now because they have to control Australia to make sure that we have it as a staging ground if we have to fight China.
Well, they've lost wars to birds, and they got rats that'll punch through your body. Of course, it's chaos there.
Dude, they fought us for 2 days in the middle of World War II. Multiple soldiers were probably beaten to death on our side, and they hid it. It was a riot. Oh, it was crazy. We'll do a whole thing on that on once.
Australia, boy.
So, in the early 90s, a rift occurred within the network when Genesis P. Orridge of Psychic TV, who owns the copyright on that cross, that's his personal copywritten symbol, one of the few founding members still involved at the time, and probably the best-known public face of Topi during the 80s, announced their departure from the organization. This was later exacerbated when he claimed to have shut the network down upon leaving and requested the group no longer used his registered trademark of the Psychic Cross. Some of the other remaining members of the network chose not to go along with this and carried on their activities. This is a strategy. At some point, they bifurcate and make them separate. They do create tensions within them, but it keeps the overall ideology going and twice as strong because there's 2 groups now.
Gotcha.
Topi continued to grow and evolve throughout the 90s and into the 21st century, while Genesis P. Orridge moved on to other projects such as The Process. The Process is The Process. Topi, or One True Topi Tribe, OTTT.
Yeah.
Right? Topi isn't defined, it's TOPI. Oh. But he sometimes refers to it as the Outer Process International.
Okay.
That implies an inner process. It's like a ring, like a physical ring. There's an outside and an inside. They're only joined at the edge.
That doesn't just imply another organization. It implies another organization that is the upper echelon of the whole thing.
And as soon as he did that, he created a new project called TOPI, right? Genesis P. Orridge's TOPY has been criticized by Dan Seepman as being a front for abuses of power and developing an actual cult of personality. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Like, I like Genesis. Also, like many people I don't think I'd want to share the room with them.
We'd get along with Genesis.
So the Process Collective.
Unless Genesis really had it in their mind that they were not going to get along with us. Genesis seemed like that kind of person. Like Genesis P. Orridge had decided before they entered the room if they were going to like this conversation or not.
Sometimes he definitely seemed to do that. Okay, you'll notice that Process logo. They used the original logo That's the original logo. The one that looks even more, that looks like it's an inverted iron cross thing, was the second logo I found out.
Nazi and fascist.
Okay, so early contributors included Nivek Ogre, Genesis Peorage, William Morrison, Loki DeKaler. Several members of the process collectively are currently high-ranking members of the Satanic Temple.
Whoa.
Now this is the connection. In 93, so Chase Bank tried to claim copyright ownership on the process logo. Morrison suggested the lawyers obtain a copy of the book by William Sims Bainbridge in 78. That guy's important. Yeah. Titled Satan's Power, a Deviant Psychotherapy Cult, which he had ingratiated himself secretly in the process and wrote about it. Supposedly. I don't think it was secret. I think he was a member and wrote about it, and was using it to bifurcate the earlier process from the later Foundation faith, which would definitely prove the process of the Church of the Final Judgment held the copyright. Morrison did not hear back from the lawyers. In 92, Rick Rubin invited Skinny Puppy and their entourage to reside in the Shangri-La recording studios in Malibu while creating their first album for American Recordings. Genesis Peorage was enlisted to work on the project. During the brainstorming sessions on potential concepts for the album, Peorage produced copies of a magazine produced by the Process Church titled Love, Sex, Death, and Fear. That's 4 different magazines. That's their thing. They made something out of nothing by making the slickest magazines you could imagine at the time. Morrison recalls himself and Ordo Templi Orientis member Adam Rostoker, who later got shot in 97 in his driveway. Nobody knows why or over what. AKA Adam walks between worlds, as immediately excited. Nivek Ogre was also intrigued. They wrote a manifesto, promotes the use of chaos magic, sigils, trance, and the cut-up techniques, i.e. industrial production technique, to unleash powers suppressed by various manifestations of social control. Burroughs, Robert Anton Wilson, Aleister Crowley, Thelema, and the 23 Enigma are referenced. Many of the articulated details are a rehash of Genesis Peorage's previous work with the Temple of Psychic Youth. He's just restarting the temple with rock stars. Because keep in mind, the process started off as an offshoot squirrel branch of Scientology.
Weird.
They later created information about the process was initially communicated across Usenet by its founding members, who encouraged people to upload their various media files for collaboration via anonymous FTP. Later, a mailing list was created without the direct participation of Ogre or Genesis. Loki DeQualer is credited with pioneering the Process.org web presence. The original Process.org server was a Next Station, which was the computer made by Steve Jobs when he temporarily left Apple, and it's basically what modern Macs are a descendant of. Like the OS X Macs are a descendant of that. Stored in a closet in Vancouver. That was a $10,000 computer, right? The location and internet connection were provided by Blackie, who is Jean-Yves Blackie Theriault of Canadian progressive thrash metal band Voivod. So already up in all of the scenes. They had the original process had a Montreal branch. Montreal is exactly where fucking Genesis went to go take over when he was pushing along with Skinny Puppy.
I bet you that shit Grimes was in as an offshoot of this. I bet you of Montreal and all of these other strange Montreal-centric groups, even these Canadian groups in particular. Because again, I'm a little bit familiar with some of the music scene in Montreal because there's been a couple Merc tracks that really popped off there in particular, where the number one place where this track is downloaded is Montreal. Right. And I'll get an influx of specifically the trans or drag queen community of Montreal.
Well, that's because it's tied to Genesis Peorage, who's the modern, fuck Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah.
Genesis Peorage is the original trans icon.
Yeah.
It's Genesis Peorage and Wendy Carlos. So the origins of modern pop in either way electronic music.
And some of the only actual come to think of it, are on the Clover's Basement tapes page. We have the Paraduma records.
Yeah.
And there's kind of subtle Processian nods in that stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
O9A nods.
Yeah, which I believe the O9A is a derivative of the 4-pi or 4p movement, which a lot of people don't believe in, but I 100% do.
Well,
And I'm not trying to tie them to Satanic Temple. Like, everything that I'm talking about sounds like a huge network of a psychotic person, and I understand. And I want to be clear. I am not... what I'm about to talk about, and the people I'm about to talk about, Lucian Graves...
yeah. We need Stan Odie to put your face on Charlie Day. On
Yes.
Pepe Silva. It's like the fucking
But
gun Jesus is all it says on the wall.
my problem is with Lucian Graves, because I suspect, and this is just me and just one man's opinion, that Lucian Graves may well, definitely was associated with some really hard right people.
Yeah. No doubt.
Here's how I know. He did the artwork for Shane Bugby's re-release of Might is Right. And he met him because he was looking for a copy of Might is Right.
That would be...
He could have... he's just interested in Satanism, wanted to know the origin, sure. I'm not saying that's not the case. I'm not saying it's more insidious. I'm saying it could be. That's all. Like, but hold on. Rich Buddy said, Voivod, I knew the drummer. What did they do? I don't think they did anything. I don't think Blackie did anything. He hosted the Process's server first. That's all.
Yeah,
that doesn't imply that he's... all the terrible shit we talk about on this channel doesn't imply that any of these folks are involved in that shit. And that is not what I mean. We're talking like connected to connected to connected, which is how... when you're tracking networks, say, as an intelligence agency to co-opt them because they have hidden networks. That's what you do. Look down just a little bit for me.
Sorry. I had a short in this cable.
Ah.
And I just now got it figured out. I didn't have any monitoring this whole episode. That was wild.
So the first thing... No, neither have I.
Oh, shit. There it went out again. It's the splitter.
Yeah, it is. I can just barely hear myself.
Yeah.
And I have to add some bass.
I just figured... Get it?
I can hear... I've heard fine. That's on your side.
Do you get it? Do you hear your monitoring?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're good. Yeah.
Okay, so this is where we bring in the founder of the Satanic Temple, Lucian Graves, a.k.a. Douglas Messner, a.k.a. Douglas Miesco.
Why has he got as many names as Erykah Badu?
Because he might be trying to hide his family. I don't know. This is purely speculative. There's a big article we're going to look through that talks about it, and the General Malo related. Okay, this is not meant to slam the guy, but he may be working or have worked with the CIA. He has a degree from Harvard, and at the time that he was there, he went on luncheons with people like Christopher Hitchens. And Shane Bugby claimed that he said that he was creating the Satanic Temple, one, to create a substantial income, and two, because sorry, I just spaced out, guys.
It's the weed.
It will, yeah, it will. It's the CBD for me, but I guess they're weeds.
Yeah.
ATF, get your shit together.
Yeah.
I live in a legal state. I'd like to be able to smoke the legal shit, please. But anyway, so Bugby, here's an article on Vice, Unmasking Lucian Graves, leader of the Satanic Temple. It's written by Shane Bugby. They were friends at this point still, but shortly after this, they weren't.
Yeah.
Lucian Graves of the Satanic Temple first showed up at my door over a decade ago. He wanted a copy of a book I'd republished called Might is Right. How did you do that when he did the art? We'll look into that later.
Sought to promote alternative thought for more than 25 years as a publisher, promoter, gallery owner. As my mother-in-law once said, was it Flim Flam Man?
Yeah. During this time, I've opened the door to free thinkers and pure crazies alike. Sometimes they are welcome guests, other times, not so much. So it's pretty fluffy.
Yeah.
And you can see him hanging out together, photo by his girlfriend Amy Bugby. And it's a good article.
Collects weird shit.
It's worth your time.
Yeah.
What's this Instagram?
It's
Shane Bugbee. It turns out Shane Bugbee's the last person to be made a priest in the Church of Satan by Anton LaVey.
Oh, shit. He's the
They're
last
friends, and here's him talking about how he met with him 25 years ago. He was a friend and teacher. Right? So I'm just saying, dude's legit, right? But you've got to understand, might makes right is the same as Yaquism. And what Yaquism at heart is a form of radical traditionalism. And it's because it is a fundamentalist traditional outlook, it always goes back to earth religions. This is not to disparage any of our many fans who are into earth religions. That being into an earth religion doesn't make you a neo-traditionalist. It doesn't make you a Nazi or anything like that.
It makes me think that like the Horned Heart situation in Poland during World War II and a lot of the stuff that came out of Stas's like the Horned Heart stuff, it must like the he had a publication called Crack, and it must have been influenced. Like this is the same kind of the writing from the
this
same
is on Rational Wiki, and it says favorite writers of these people include Italian fascist fellow traveler Julius Evola, who helped pioneer the term and much of the philosophy, ultra radical environmentalist Pinti Lincola, French Nouveau Droit founder Alain de Benoist, Ragnar Redbeard and his book Might is Right, American Nazi sympathizer Francis Parker Yockey, and Norwegian neo-pagan Varg Vikernes. The Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, remember Vikernes starts making industrial and neo-martial music when he's in jail.
Yeah.
The Unabomber Ted Kaczynski also incorporated themes very similar to radical traditionalism into his primitivist ideology and manifesto. And they're both the same thing. They're different forms of radical, like one's radical traditionalist, one's primitivist. They end up in the same thing and they fight over the specifics in the same context.
Yeah.
You know? The movement seems to have a small bit of influence in the dark folk and industrial music subcultures, but only just. That is not true from what I've been seeing. It's an astounding amount. But let's get back to, we can find right here. You can buy Might is Right.
Got it. Snooch loaded up for you. So creative.
And here's a really hard,
the most fascistic of covers on it.
Yeah, and here's Doug Messner. Or here's an article at tinfoilhat.com, tinfoilhattime.com.wordpress that is actually pretty good. That's pretty critical of them. I find it to be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And this is where I initially heard something about him saying that he'd been working with the CIA, which I later found on archive.org because it's been pulled down, where he does claim that happened. And it's been pulled off his own site, shanebugbee.com, which has been wiped from the internet. He just still only has his Instagram. I assume he's probably had to deal with a lot of blowback because the Temple of Satan got so big. Yeah. Though it has schismed in the last year because these right-wing allegations against him, because of some of the horror. He called himself 100% pure Aryan at one point on an early, really edgy podcast with fucking, what's his name? Bugbee.
Oh, okay.
Right? So, as you can see on process.org, it's the same process. Never stop being down. Here's an interview with a guy named John M. Knapp. He specializes in counseling those who are recovering from what's called cultic abuse. That doesn't mean you're in an actual cult. It means the abuse followed the style of what they weaponize in cults.
Gotcha. Just a broad blanket term, cultic abuse. It could happen to you if you're in an MLM or something.
And by that was in 2008. And you can see it's on process.org, oddly enough, because the group he was dealing with, Center for Healing Spiritual and Cultic Abuse, Lucien Graves had joined. Then co-opted, took over. Like at this point, this is when he's in Harvard, getting reports from the CIA. Now, keep in mind all the intelligence associations in England with all those pedophiles. And how many researchers still, and myself included, still buy into the hypnotic induction claims from the Satanic Panic. I do believe that there were plenty of groups working. I think it was blown up into a nationwide panic so it could be tamped down.
Yeah.
And I think it had to do with these stay-behind. It was an intelligence operation, had to do with weaponizing stay-behind cults and using them operationally as hitmen. So he co-ops that group and basically destroys this guy's reputation, right? In 2014, he moves to incorporate under this name Douglas Miseko with Kevin Soling. These are the real names of the two guys who founded the Temple of Satan, or the Satanic Temple, the United Federation of Churches. Let's go to their 2002 annual report. Oh, come on.
Huh.
But you can see that this is basically the corporation. If you go through and look at their reports, you'll be able to see that this is the corporation that owns Doug Miseko and Kevin Soling. Functionally, Miseko's the signatory and agent, and Soling's the manager, signatory, and owns real property. So he's the real guy. Miseko's the face. Right?
Yeah.
Now, process.org. What's on process.org? That's the Process's website still. The last blog post I found from Doug Miseko is from 2016. He's using it as his own personal blog.
Whoa. Huh. Wow.
So to me, like, they might as well be the same thing at this point. It turns out Doug Miseko has 3 different names. He got unmasked from Lucian Graves to Doug Mesner, which is a Jewish name.
Yeah.
But he's not Jewish. He's Ukrainian, and he's not Jewish Ukrainian either.
He's not Ashkenazi, okay.
No. No. And in fact, if you look at the area he's from, do you have any clue how many fucking Nazi war criminals they pulled out of his neighborhood or the neighborhood next to it? It's all like it goes into it on this article from Daniel Buntovnik on WordPress, which we'll have linked on the site that we're going to start putting links on.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And from everything that I'm finding, like this is pretty wild. Now, keep in mind, these people absolutely believe in ritual satanic abuse, and they probably absolutely believe any single thing that they read on it. I could be wrong. I couldn't do enough. But looking into everything that I could on this and everything that's happened and looking into the fallout from 2019, I'm not seeing anything wrong in it. The afterword of the edition of Might is Right, illustrated by Miseko, was written by George Birdie, who, as the frontman of a band called Rehoboth, Racial Holy War, was an influential figure in the Detroit-based neo-Nazi skinhead hate rock scene of the 90s. Now, the people he was associating with under his name, and keep in mind, that was, I think, 2016? No. That's what I was saying. Sorry, it wasn't in 2016. It was definitely earlier than that. Oh, wow. They're associated... I'm going to read this whole passage.
Do it.
In August 2018, Miseko announced that he would be working with a lawyer named Mark Ranzada to sue Twitter for alleged religious discrimination for temporarily suspending his personal account and that of the Satanic Temple. Ranzada is infamous for defending neo-Nazis and white supremacists in court cases. He's currently defending several neo-fascists in trial in connection with their roles in the infamous August 2017 Unite the Right rally. This is what caused the big split up nationwide of the Satanic Temple, which is a good bifurcation strategy.
Yeah.
Among the defendants in the case are Augustus Saul Invictus, Jeff Schupp, leader of the neo-Nazi group NSM, which, besides its known ties to the Joy of Satan ministry, which is insane, also has numerous links to crime, including child abuse and terrorism. Andrew Anglin, an editor of the neo-Nazi website The Daily Stormer, and white supremacist terrorist James Alex Fields Jr., the member of the alt-right neo-Nazi group Vanguard America, who drove a muscle car at high speed into a large group of anti-fascist protesters. That dude. Many of the defendants are affiliated with groups which are in turn affiliated with the Nationalist Front, an umbrella organization through which numerous right-wing extremist sects have united. Among the co-founders of the National Front, we also find sects with names like the Aryan Terror Brigade and several others which claim affinity with Combat 18. Now, this gets to Order of Nine Angles.
Okay. This is when we get into 098. Damn.
A neo-Nazi terrorist group based in the UK, which was formerly led by David Mayat, who inspired the so-called London nail bomber neo-Nazi terrorist attack of 1999, and was also... He is almost certainly the founder of the previously mentioned human sacrifice advocating Order of Nine Angles. They're terrifying. A UK-based satanic group whose sympathizers in the United States have also formed the previously mentioned Temple of Blood, which you'll notice is spelled TEMPELOVBLOOD. That's congruent with how the Temple of Psychic Youth and the Process and Genesis Peorage advocated misspelling in order to break people out of the mindset associated with just following along with reading, which is built to discernible links with the so-called alt-right. Now, that is true. They're related to Atomwaffen. A lot of the Atomwaffen members were O9A and Temple of Blood members, and they've been infiltrating our military, or maybe they were co-opted by the military, or maybe they were trained by the military, considering some of the things that we've read. But this article really makes it look likely, based on the research that they've done, which I'm just going by this, and you should read it yourself because it's just an article. But everything I was looking into on it kept checking out right up until my fucking deadline here, so I felt confident bringing it up. And it implies that he may be related to Ukrainian Nazis who'd moved over here. You should look it out, not take my word for it.
Snap. Ukrainian East. Okay. So
and if you want to see, that, Daniel K. Buntinov here has a whole thing with a whole guide on how the Temple of the Temple of Satan, or the Satanic Temple, excuse me, and fucking Douglas Miesco, Kevin Solling are functionally creating a hardcore right-wing sect. Now, I can't speak to this being accurate. I haven't read through all of it. I am reading through all of it. But everything else, and knowing what we do about Genesis Peorage, the process, Marianne McLean saying she was the reincarnation of Joseph Goebbels, the consistent association with Nazis with all of these sects, they could be building an alt-right sect in there. Or there could be an inner group controlling, maybe not the whole thing, but certain key aspects. Who fucking knows? But what does this have to do with Gun Jesus? Like, I'm talking about a guy who's not Gun Jesus. Gun Jesus is not a member of the Satanic Temple. He apparently lives here in Tucson. I've never met him. Like I said, he's my favorite online celebrity. He seems like one of the nicest human beings on earth, and I have nothing disparaging to say about him. He has a friend named Carl Casarda, who I think is a little edgy, and he's affiliated with the Temple of the Satanic Temple here in Arizona. He's spoken with him a few times. Well, let's see. Here's a Reddit thread with a picture of him.
Lordy.
And the right and the alt-right are immediately flipping out on that because so many of them are religious fundamentalists. And we could argue all day about the Satanic Temple's overt dogma. I'm talking about what seems to be going on behind the scenes, not what they say they spread. It was talking about him doing a speaking in January 26th of 2018 at one of their events. So I'm just saying Carl's associated. I don't think this is anything anyone doesn't know. They have a project on YouTube called InRange TV. I quite like it.
Ah.
And that's his dad there on the left looking like a fucking wizard. Oh. Hey, he looks like a wizard. They both look like wizards. Oh. I really hope that they don't teleport in here and fucking shoot me with something that shoots 32 French long.
He's an Old West wizard, man. They only cowboys and ranchito, his Hispanic cats, have that shirt.
Oh, yeah. Well, dude, he's got to deal with that Tucson heat. Actually, the dude travels worldwide.
that.
Like, he has access to some of the craziest stuff. And his dad might be a psychic spy.
That's crazy. He's got a hippie ass looking son. That kind of
Now,
trash.
it's not going to load in because we don't have a LinkedIn. If you did, you'd see this is his LinkedIn account, and it has all of his stuff and who all he worked for. He worked as an archivist for a ton of different government groups.
Damn.
Right?
So, yeah,
and he worked as, I want to say, the New York State official archivist in the 80s in Albany, New York. He was the guy who decided what records were of importance to the history. I suspect his father was recruited by our intelligence services. One of the reasons I suspect is, one, excellent career as a researcher and archivist for the fucking federal government, or for the New York State government. Two, he literally wrote the book on Japanese World War II rifles. Do you want to know anything about any variation or how they work? He is as near as I can tell, the foremost expert in the world. He knows, like, I'm sure he knows other guns too, right? But for the last 16 years, since he retired as an official archivist working for different governments in the U.S., he's been a professional astrologer.
Oh. Oh.
You can find this is him, Duncan O. McCollum, here on lightworkerlocator.com.
That's
the Lightworker
even more
near you.
weirdy.
Super wizardy. Year established, 09. So, yeah.
Whoa. Gun hit.
It's got the place you can go to see him. He's in Colorado. I'm guessing. Look, guys, if I'm getting my stars read, and I'm not trying to be, this is not even a joke. I'm not anti-astrology. I'm a very open-minded person. I'm a big fan of Manly P. Hall. This is the guy I'm calling.
Yeah. Wild.
So I was interested. It doesn't seem to be on here. It might be. Yeah, it's on his LinkedIn. Well, he learned from a guy named Maurice Fernandez, right? This is Maurice Fernandez.
Huh.
He uses Fernandez's system.
Okay.
Now, if we go down here, we see a lot of stuff, right? And before we go down on Fernandez's system, let's take a look. Excuse me. Fernandez's system is based on the system of Dane Rudyard. Dane Rudyard was a close personal friend of Alice Bailey. Alice Bailey I am a Pisces.
Oh.
Alice Bailey is, I believe, David Lynch's favorite author.
Oh.
And I would say that if you understood Alice Bailey, you probably would understand David Lynch's films. If you find them confusing, you might want to,
Yeah.
read some Alice Bailey. I'm not saying you should become a theosophist. I'm saying if you want to understand it. Now, Dane Rudyard learned from Mark Edmund Jones.
Oh.
Dean of and during this period, like, many people were Christian preachers and also profound astrologers from the late 1800s till about 1950, even later. Those were not considered incompatible at all.
Yeah. Wild. And David
And
Lynch
he formed-
potentially being a cryptic theosophist.
He formed a group, or he formed a group called the Sabian Society, or the Sabian Assembly, which still exists. It has all about his life. When he was a kid, he was at the same World's Fair H. Howard Hunt was killing people from.
Whoa.
But let's get back to Maurice Fernandez. Man, what are these groups? We've got, the Mountain Astrologer magazine. All these people are basically following a man who recently died.
Oh.
He ran the Mountain Astrologer, the foremost publication on Western occult astrology in the West for 30 years. Excuse me.
Cool.
Right? His name. Oh, give me a second. Is Tim Terakar. He passed recently. nationally syndicated. It was I want to say he was in the New York Times regularly for their column until he passed.
Yeah.
Built up a huge, basically, as soon as Manly P. Hall died, huge. He basically socially takes over in the West.
Okay. This becomes...
Which is important. Astrology informs a ton of different occult faiths.
Yeah.
Right?
The interpretation of it is hella important. And who's doing it. What system you're using, yeah.
Loved that image.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got more information. We'll have these in the links so that you can read a little bit more. Yeah. Right. And it gets really weird. Like, I don't have time to go into all these. I probably should have got my thoughts together, but at this point, I think I'd been up for 24 hours because I just discovered all this and had to correlate them.
Hey, you're fine.
Now, they're all tied together currently through an organization called OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology. Keep in mind, a lot of people still make their money doing economic forecasting. There are plenty of people who invest based on astrology, right?
Yeah.
And the head of that is our friend Mr. Fernandez, who taught.
Oh.
Who taught Ian McCollum's dad.
Yeah.
Now, I was looking at Ian McCollum's, like we can't get to his LinkedIn, but in 80 to 82, after he graduated from, I want to say, University of Colorado, but I can't get to his LinkedIn to be sure, he went to American University.
Oh.
He went to Washington, D.C. for 2 years to study. This is a super high-end, functionally government school that has a very, very, it's amazing. They own NPR's flagship affiliate, WAMU.
Oh.
Right? And what's their history? In the war, when they were created at the very beginning, the U.S. military divided, because it was just weeks before World War I. Yeah. The U.S. military divided American University into two segments, Camp American University and Camp Leach.
Huh.
Camp American University became the birthplace of the United States Chemical Weapons Program and the site of chemical weapons testing.
Oh, man.
This required a major cleanup in the 90s. Camp Leach was home to advanced research, development, and testing of modern camouflage techniques.
Oh.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sneaky boys and chemical boys.
In the early 60s, the DoD and the CIA operated the FFRDC Special Operations Research Office there. AU's political involvement was furthered by President John F. Kennedy's spring 1963. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, who's involved? Adnan Khashoggi, the guy who was an investor on the Cotton Club. He's just going to keep coming up all throughout this fucking show.
This guy, Khashoggi's, constantly involved in this strange occult, esoteric, any of the circles.
Yeah, he's apparently he got them to create the largest construction to date, right, for the Sports and Convocation Center, and then he backed out on it like 8 years later.
What?
Yeah.
Just left the money, so fuck it. I'm out.
Yeah, or, they built all the sub-basements, then paved over them and used them for the CIA.
Oh, snap. He's like, I got what I want out of it. Smuggling operation secure.
But there was this thing. Where is it? The FFRDC Special Operations Research Office, a.k.a. Project Camelot.
Oh. We're back to Project Camelot. All right, 1964.
Was the code name of a counterinsurgency study begun by the Army in 1964. Methods for predicting and influencing social change and internal war potential. We want to predict and influence, not stop, influence the potential for internal war. That's the study. They set it up in Chile. They basically were going to all but roboticize all of Chile. Right? It's insane. It was nominally stopped because people heard about this what was called Politica software. That was the name of it, like the Politica.
Yeah.
Now, originally, Special Operations Research Office, or SORO, was called the Psychological and Guerrilla Warfare Research Office, but this name was changed 3 days after AU and the Department of Defense signed a contract to create it.
Whoa.
So that tells you what it really is. And everyone who got a hold of that document is going to be looking for PSYGRO as opposed to SORO because of the immediate change.
Yeah.
So let's get down here. They plan to create a giant computer database, like the one that recently failed in Argentina when everyone lost every bit of information about all their biometrics and everything. Right? So let's talk about Hugo Nutini, an Italian-born Chilean professor of anthropology, consultant on the conceptual stages of Camelot, and asked for permission from Soro to approach Chilean social scientists with the idea of conducting a study. He wrote Alvaro Bunster, Secretary General of the University of Chile, explaining the project in question is a kind of study in which will participate sociologists, anthropologists, economists, psychologists, geographers, and other specialists in social sciences, and which will be supported by various scientific and governmental organizations in the United States. He concealed the role of the Army in sponsoring the research. So basically what they were going to do was set up a form of AI software, or an early precursor to AI software, algorithmic software.
Yeah.
With 480 different inputs. And this was based on software that Kennedy already had and used to win the 1960 election. To pick what like he picked doubling down on civil rights because they said there's no loss, all gain. And that's why he did it, because he was advised to based on mathematical models. Whoa. Before you start talking about how great Kennedy was just because of what he signed off on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But their plan was to tag every group, follow every group, and then utilize psychological warfare techniques to get different groups to fight each other. All automated through computer.
Ooh.
And nominally they canceled it, but if you look at South America nowadays, or modern society, it seems like it just kept on and kept on and kept on. So this is the place. This is the context of the type of school and background that this guy went to.
Yeah.
Like Harvard, it's the type of place you get an agent. And he went 80 to 82. That's when the 1st Earth Battalion and all the men who stare at goat shit is kicking off.
I was going to say, we're talking about McCullum, right?
Yeah, his father, Duncan McCullum.
Yeah, he was on.
And there's just, and then he becomes, first job basically is state records for New York throughout the 80s.
Damn.
Which in New York and everything that we're talking about and picking what lasts in a historical context, man, if you had to hide a bunch of cult wars, you got one guy, this would be the guy who decides what records do or do not go in. And hey, I'm not trying to disparage the guy or say he really did that. I'm saying within this context, that's the guy you pick.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be clear. I've got nothing but respect for the McCollums.
Yeah. He seemed to not have his kid thrown into too much nonsense.
So you've got Lucian Graves, who Shane Bugbee claims had been co-opted by and was working for the CIA.
Yeah.
In the currently one of the most politically divided contexts we've ever had, where the Satanic Temple are a big pusher of the friction in American society, justified or not, however you feel, that is, they are, though.
Yeah.
You've got Ian McCullum, who has made guns the coolest shit on earth and is the most reasonable and rational person you'll talk to, online at least, in any context, and I've never heard anything to the contrary. And I'm not trying to make anything insidious about this. I'm just talking about the general structure of what it is done in the current era. Normally, I don't talk about the current era.
He seems like he, it's a very, like, gun at a gun show being a professional vibe. Like, he's not selling nothing to a kid.
Dude, past that, he's a combination of that and the nicest fucking bookstore owner you'll ever meet. The reason I like him is that one of the reasons I'm so into guns was that right around the corner from me when I was growing up, it was the late 80s, early 90s in a violent town, needed somewhere to go, house was boring, we had some family friends named the Rolkes, and my friend Sergeant Jim Rolke was an ex-70s bush warrior and gun collector. His wife was East German, and she bred birds, basically. Bred exotic birds. So you'd go over there and it would be like, hey, check out that fucking MG42 and this cockatoo. And like, and for me, like by the time that I'm 15, I've seen and read all of the James Bond movies, and have learned how to field strip a 1911, and I've even had the chance to take apart a Tommy gun and handle an AK-47 and an AR-15, both fully automatic, Yeah. So yeah, when I see that guy and I'm like, oh, that's just him for the entire. That's Jim Rolke for the whole world. I've got nothing but respect for the guy, and nothing but respect for his dad. No problem with being an astrologer, and also, yeah, hanging out with Carl and being friends with Carl doesn't mean shit. I've hung out with some real shitheels who are definitely worse than anything I've ever heard about Mr. Carl.
Yeah.
Lucian, though, man, I got my questions. A lot of it does have to do with this article. But, dude's presenting a theory. Maybe check it out and see if that related to Satanic Temple is something that, in particular, our listeners, means that that's an organization that they currently want to support, considering who they've picked as their lawyer and dude's previous associations with hard right people. Because people of the best intentions can be co-opted by militants who put them in a series of psychological double binds in view of their ideology to control them, and generally without any regards to that person's long-term safety.
Yeah, because of this adopted repugnant ideology stuff, the wave of World War II, it's so wild that you stumbled into this rabbit hole while just kind of
and I want to say
benignly checking out the process on YouTube or something.
The process has been a thing because I was interested with and corresponded with people involved in TOPI in the 90s when I was a kid. Like I was really into Skinny Puppy. I was really into a lot of the things associated with this. And there was an occult milieu within my area. A lot of it had to do with a group that called themselves the Children, and may have been we'll talk about that one or another one. May have been called the Children of Light, based out of Birmingham, Alabama, and a little occult center there. Not Birmingham. It's not Huntsville. It's not Huntsville. It's near Huntsville, but they've got a military base there. I'm sorry. I've got to have my notes even to keep up with places that I've been to half the time.
Yeah.
But no, like that was there were tons like we definitely in the 80s and 90s felt the satanic panic hard, and part of my life has been trying to process those things in context with other with things from that I know for a fact were happening. Yeah. And when I say that we're possibly just limited to some crazy people in my general area.
Yeah.
But the more I read about government mind control programs and stay behind armies and the fact we were next to an Air Force base, for me personally, it makes that shit really resonant.
Yeah. It absolutely. And I keep going back to Maury Terry because of the Air Force connections, the occult, esoteric circles. You have astrology circles now. All of this kind of going back to military officials and always happening somewhere near an Air Force base. Really, since the end of World War II, this shit's been popping off.
Often Air Force, but I'm guessing you're gonna find it's just bases.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it does have to do with Air Force bases because of the need to move people quickly.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. Just the amount of military people seemingly involved in Satanism. Israel Keyes, the serial killer. I brought him up before.
Fucking
he was the shallow Satanist.
Michael Aquino.
Yeah.
Who wrote the book Psywar and retired from the U.S. military as a fucking, I want to say, lieutenant colonel.
Yeah.
He's responsible for an astounding amount of modern Satanism and occult thought.
Yeah. That's
a thing I think people should consider.
Aquino was I also know there's been gang issues in the military. You know what I mean? Like Crips and Bloods show up. And that shit's in the military.
Well, and that was what was happening with 09A and Atomwaffen.
Yeah, exactly.
And that led to murders on base.
Exactly.
Like the Atomwaffen infiltration has led to murder.
Yeah. Ugh. It's just a ridiculous group. I've been thinking a lot about the Process Church. Again, I rewatched the Sons of Sam. Special guest filled me in that the guy who made Sons of Sam was the same guy who made Cropsy on Netflix.
And you'll find the Process shows up in that. I firmly believe that there was a group that had splintered off from the Process. Probably both Marianne, and De Grimston, but maybe secretly still run from De Grimston because he'd moved to the East Coast.
Yeah.
And I think that when they swapped, the first thing they did when they became just the Foundation Church was that they got rid of the Christian and Luciferian aspects, and only kept Jehovah and Satan. Man, those were the two authoritarian sides.
Mm-hmm.
You got me?
Yeah. That's that. Okay.
And like, we see the Foundation faith in that photo with the governor of fucking Alabama, where they do a spontaneous healing on it.
Yeah.
And like I said, the other day, I found the entire articles of incorporation and changes of the process the entire time with everybody who's signed on to them, man.
It's so weird. And there's such a straight line through all of it. I can't even. It's made me officially like...
There's a straight line
white girl.
of consistent association with military intelligence with all of these things in bizarre ways. Yeah. So... Yeah,
we know that all of the this is I'll be honest, this has been a refreshing episode and departure from the subject matter of the last 2 weeks,
yeah, dude.
Which was, well,
that's here's one reason that I personally had been up until recently pretty hesitant to criticize the Satanic Temple. It was because they do put a huge focus on not harming kids.
Yeah.
But so does MS-13. Yeah. That's one of their bylaws.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, I mean, if the best you've got, considering your alt-right associations in this case, like your lawyer especially, and I understand they're saying, oh, well, we have to do it because it's pro bono. No, man, y'all make a lot of money. If you're not, then y'all need an audit. Mm-hmm. No, I think you picked who you felt was the right person for the job. Emphasis on right.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me because of the types of people associated with it.
What scares me, too, about some, like MS-13, right? They say they won't harm a child. They'll take a child.
Yeah.
That's like, well, how crazy is the sect? You know what I mean? Like,
well,
they might not harm a child.
And not only that, like, MS-13 isn't just MS-13. They've had people break off, and you look at the current, we'll call it Santa Muerta movement of Hispanic gangs.
Yes. Well, which became a pivotal thing in Los Zetas. So, like, Zetas and MS-13, they get together all the time.
Well, and where did Zetas come from?
That's northern Mexico.
No. How did they start? Los Zetas started off as members
of Colombia's.
No. They started Colombia.
Yeah.
And they started off as Colombian Special Forces trained by US DEA.
Yeah, I was about to say they came out of Coke Labs in Colombia.
Now, who was associated with the DEA? Ronald Hadley Stark, close personal friends to Robert de Grimston.
Yeah. Man, everybody seems to be close personal friends with Robert de Grimston if they were a popular figure up to 1974.
Yeah.
So, like, again, Roman Polanski at a party. Sharon Tate is there. Robert de Grimston is there. Charles Manson is there, all at the same party. And you know who else is probably there and they don't mention? The guy who led the Holy Hell cult, the Buddhafield cult.
Well, we haven't even gotten into Tom Mincer, the guy who they convicted for killing Roy Raden.
Oh, yeah.
He was known as Manson 2. Well, what if Tom Mincer was there because Robert de Grimston was Charles Manson?
I love that.
And Mincer's job is to be a body double in public intermittently, and he's going to keep his mouth shut or talk crazy.
It explains some of the inconsistent photos of Manson.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like he's kind of photo inconsistent.
No, he does seem photo inconsistent, but I'll tell you what, if you look at his interview in 1991 and then look at a picture of, because in 91, he's just rocking nothing but a mustache and short hair.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like a normal person on the street except for the fucking swastika in his forehead, which... When you look at the first version of that swastika, it's not. It's a cross that looks like the process cross.
It's like just an X that seems fucked up. It's the process.
It's the process cross.
And then, and there were two members of the process that came to meet with Manson right after.
And then he wrote an article for their thing.
The death issue.
Yeah. No, I believe that Robert de Grimston and Charles Manson were either the same person, or they played the same character. Yeah. And that Robert de Grimston's just a character.
That's it. Well, and Manson's just a character. I mean, I think maybe de Grimston might be the actual persona behind it. Manson has this almost J.T. Leroy level fucking...
Manson said he'd never met Robert Moore, but as to de Grimston, you're looking at him.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So DeGrimston's a character with a made-up name.
Well, no,
that people can step in. Anybody who looks like him can play the character, who sounds like and can be a good actor, can play the character. As long as you could fake somebody on a fucking stage, that's as good as they're worried about.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of human memory. And people doubting themselves. And when I say doubting themselves, watch Darren Brown consistently do this street magic trick where he'll have himself, like he's a little white guy with a British accent, right?
Yeah.
And he'll have a map out and he'll walk up to a person and say, hey, a local, and say, hey, can you give me directions? And they'll start pointing and they'll set up where like some workmen come by with a sheet with a mirror, right? And the workmen just plow right between them. Both of them step back. He walks on with the mirror and another guy steps out behind him holding the map.
Yeah.
And every single time the person giving directions seems a little confused.
And
then just goes on about what they were fucking doing, giving directions every single fucking time.
Here's my deal. Robert Moore. You could probably find photos if you were to deep dive Robert Moore going all the way back to some British private school, right? Him as a little kid.
Do you know where he was born?
Where?
Shanghai, China.
Damn. Okay, so
he was born in Shanghai, China, and he served in India in the cavalry squad.
Okay, so check this out. You've got a background on paper for him going way back. What do we have on Manson? Where's all the juvie mugshots of all this mystified...
There aren't any because Manson only existed outside of a penitentiary, boys' home, or jail for 11 years of his entire life.
Yeah. But here's the thing, too. Even if you are incarcerated...
Which makes him exactly the type of person that they would recruit for MK Ultra because they were working out of jails.
Well, and they were... Look, and it explains, too, the lack of... You don't see the 12, 13 juvenile mugshots on Manson.
No.
Not like you would according to his mythology. Not like you should be able to according to his mythology. It's like there's either been stuff redacted or it didn't happen.
Yeah, well, they act like every police station burned its files.
Exactly. Like
as opposed to turning him into the state police.
Yeah, like he wasn't arrested in the 1800s.
You know what would help on that? You know what would really help on that? If there was a person, like if you wanted to conceal that, if you wanted to conceal his record, if there was a person in that state who was important for deciding what did or did not get archived in the state records.
Well, and you know,
like the guy in Albany, New York, who gave birth to not trying to meaningfully connect Mr. McCullum to a conspiracy involving inventing Charles Manson. But I think it's interesting that if you were attempting to, the position you would need would be the head of state archives, basically.
Potentially,
especially in that era where everything's paper.
Yeah, and somebody down to PSYOP.
Mm-hmm.
And
look, they were
more than sheep did.
They likely recruited Oswald when he was 15 because he was in the Civil Air Patrol, which they were recruiting people from the Minutemen children out of. Yeah. The BNDD recruited people as young as 14 years old to inform on what was going on in the high schools.
They sure, They that's crazy. That's an incredibly young age.
And when you've got somebody who's been like, here's the thing, and I've thought about this a lot this past week. It's the nature of English that in the current era, if I say secret agent, you think spy.
Yeah.
No. A secret agent is just an agent who's secret. An agent can be anything. An agent saboteur.
Yeah.
Right? An agent, like being an agent saboteur is not being a spy. Spies collect records, basically.
They aggregate information.
Agent saboteurs they're not the eye, they're the hand, right? But they're still a secret. Both are secret agents.
A spy implies you are an agent that sells a good. The good is information.
Well, who works for the FNB? Who worked for the Federal Bureau of Narcotic Drugs or the DEA? Agents.
Yes.
They're special agents. They're all agents.
Yep. There's
they're not spies, even though everything that they fall under is stuff that in the public is only presented in the milieu of like James Bond or shit like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to blow anybody's operation.
Got a bunch of CIA people like, all right, fucking kill that shit. I'm blown. I'm watching on YouTube right now.
Yeah, no, it's like...
Yeah. So shout out our CIA handler, or federal handler, whoever you are.
Whoever it is.
Whoever you are.
Galen Org handler.
Yeah, what's up, dude? What's up, man? I think this was a very good episode. Again, a great departure. Do we have anything else in the notes?
Dude, that's where we're at this week. I'd tell you what was coming up next week, but I generally have an idea when I leave here, and then it's developed for 2 more weeks while something falls in my lap like this shit did.
Word.
Yeah, this just started with me at like 6 or 7 o'clock on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Starting to read that YouTube comment and being locked into that, and then doing editing on the back end, like of the map, until I went to sleep on Wednesday night. It was just nothing but a bunch of coffee.
If for all the viewers out there who catch this in real time or catch this quick enough to real time, I've been going slow this week. My voice has been in and out, so I haven't really been able to talk a whole lot. I've been doing as much back-end stuff as I can. We've launched the Merc Radio reviews, and we have another, piece of edited content coming up. We're going to do a review weekly of something relevant. So be sure to stay tuned for that, guys. And I'm going to come back with the live show. We might wait till after the holidays, till I feel better. We might do one this evening. I don't know. I play it by ear, babies. Get in the Discord if you want the notification before I go live.
Yep.
Be a part of the show.
Unlike normal, we don't have a ton of links in the description. We're gonna set up like a little WordPress site so you can just have a single link to it and then go to the stuff for this week. Yeah. So if it's not here by the end of the night, it should be set up by the end of the week.
Yeah.
So everything that we went to and all the documents and stuff, all the links will be there so that you can go check this shit out on your own.
You want to follow modern occultism,
and you can fucking also, please, if you point out where I've made a mistake, post it in the comments. Let me know. I'm gonna check them. That way I can adjust my worldview.
Yeah. If you feel free to drop a spicy comment. Doesn't bother me. All right, let's round this sucker down. Again, thank you, special guest.
Yeah.
I'm Jay Merck. Like, share, and subscribe.
Please.
Yeah, you like that noise?